name is Adele, and I'm a member of Civilian Soldier Alliance. We support the resistance of GI resistors and work with the veteran-led anti-war movement. I'm also a member of the San Francisco LGBT community. So what I wanted to raise here today is that Pride did not actually just rescind the honor of Grand Marshal for Bradley Manning. They maligned Bradley Manning in the public eye directly before the largest and most important military court-martial in U.S. history. We need to hold them accountable for that. And I also want to say this is not the first time that Bradley Manning has been abandoned by major LGBT organizations. This started happening a long time ago because in the midst of the, working for the repeal of DADT, we've been told that, queers are just as loyal to nation. And who's the biggest liability to that but Bradley Manning? None of the major LGBT organizations wanted to touch this issue, even when it was proven that Bradley Manning has been held in torturous conditions for almost 3 years, as of next month. So, another thing I want to take on is that many of the major media outlets have portrayed Bradley Manning as this sissy who was, throwing a hissy fit and retaliating against the Army for their homophobic harassment. Not that that's not okay, but Bradley Manning strategically released the cables that he released right before the Iraqi elections, showing what the U.S. was doing to undermine democratic elections in Iraq during the occupation. His release of the Apache helicopter attack video has been the foundation of Iraq Veterans Against the War's reparations work, which is now leading to a request for an international human rights hearing on the health effects of the Iraq War. And probably most important, the cables he released have been supportive of some of the most major, largest democratic uprisings throughout the world that I've seen in my lifetime. So while major LGBT organizations want to pretend that this isn't a queer issue, I think it's up to us to claim this as a queer issue. Not just because, like so many queer youth, Bradley Manning was kicked out of his home, lost parental support, had unstable housing, was bouncing between jobs, and eventually joined the Army, but because I think it's up to us to say, for whatever reason, if this person's experience of difference produced in them a sense of ethics and of justice that made it impossible for them to participate in military racism, to dehumanize Iraqis, we need to affirm that. That's the kind of difference and insight that needs to be amplified and affirmed. So this is also happening during a time when liberal sexual politics, whether it's the inclusion of LGBT people, or I should say LGB people in the military, or the so-called feminist occupation of Afghanistan, are being used as an alibi for U.S. militarism. Right. I'm not willing to stand by and watch the sunset on the relevance of LGBT politics, and I don't think anyone else here is either. So I really want to encourage us to treat this as an opportunity not just to get a stab in at Pride, to be really pissed off for 2 weeks, and then pay attention to other stuff when the DOMA verdict comes down, to not forget as Pride season rolls around, but to actually throw down for Bradley Manning as his court-martial comes up on June 1st, and to renew and sustain the anti-militarist commitments and the anti-war commitments of the San Francisco LGBT community that San Francisco Pride sold out this week. And I want to close, as someone who's done organizing with active duty veterans, active duty service members, I really want to emphasize just how remarkable it is that Bradley Manning took on this risk. Just how rare it is. Service members act in a context in which their free speech rights are incredibly constrained. Many of us in civil society can't really imagine that. It is so difficult for them to speak out, and the consequences are so huge. Bradley Manning is literally fighting for his life. And I really think that we need to throw down not just for Bradley Manning, but for all GI resistors who refuse to fight. And really realize recognize their strategic importance in undermining U.S. militarism. So I hope we can renew our commitment to that today and recognize that this case has a great deal to do with the future of free speech rights of service members in the U.S., of our ability to find out what's happening on the front lines of war by hearing from U.S. service members. All of that is at stake in this court-martial, and that's what we're fighting for, as well as for Bradley's freedom. So thanks so much for being here today.
They say court-martial. What do we say? Grand Marshal. Court-martial. We say Grand Marshal. Okay,
Hello, I am gay and gray and 43 and also a queer activist. And 43 years ago, I, with other queer activists, founded, started, established the Gay Liberation Front in the Bay Area. And shortly thereafter, Dyke started the Gay Women's Liberation Movement in this area. And we remember our history and our history. Evidently, the Pride Committee doesn't remember, so we need to remind them. And we need to remind them that this movement, this day in June, wouldn't even have been possible if militant gays, lesbians, transgenders had not fought back right here at the Compton Cafe Rebellion in San Francisco in '63, and of course in Stonewall in '69.
And broke the law.
And broke the law. Lots of laws need to be broken. I'm proud to say also that the Grey Panthers, we have been supporters of Bradley Manning from the very, very beginning, and we will all be out there with you. And we need to make this contingent as large as possible, as broad as possible, because Bradley Manning is a hero to all people who oppose war. He's our hero, and we need to stand up for him. And speaking of the military, what is this with don't ask, don't tell? I mean, how hypocritical to say you're, part of this don't ask, don't tell movement and not stand up for Bradley Manning. So, what it sounds like to me is that don't ask, don't care. Also, while we stand up for Bradley Manning, we also need to start creating alternatives for youth. All youth. Alternatives to the military. And stop using our youth as cannon fodder in wars that none of us support. And in the meantime, let's also stand up for stopping the rape of the women soldiers that's going on rampantly every day.
And the civilians.
So I just like to say, Bradley Manning speaks for me, and Bradley Manning must be free.
Bradley Manning speaks for me. Bradley Manning must be free. Okay.